Hey everyone, it's Mostly Casual Commander. I'm BK. We're on Discord and Patreon. Links are in the description. I won the die roll, yay! And I'm gonna fly over my opponents with Alela, Artful Provocateur, and her army of fairies. Busterkins is playing the Dragon. He's gonna reduce the costs of his dragons, he's gonna get them out as quickly as possible and smash into his opponents. J-Man has a fun take on Kenrith, the Returned King. He's gonna try to win with Happily Ever After, and if that doesn't work, he's just gonna beat up his opponents. Next up, we have Kyle playing Tameshi, Reality Architect. This deck should allow him to gain extra turns and mill out his opponents. Before we start the game, we want to take a moment to give a huge shout out to a bunch of new patrons this week. Jared the Bear, Aku, Rack Poetry, and Zip. You are all awesome and thank you so much for your support over on Patreon. It truly helps the channel grow. Now I know what you might be thinking to yourself. You're probably thinking, Self, how do I get a shout out from BK on his YouTube channel? Simple. Just go over to patreon.com/mostlycasualcommander. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month, support the channel, and get some cool benefits. Now let's jump into the game, and make sure you stick around for an appearance from my fat cat Meatball. He's so chunky. I play a Prairie Stream before passing the turn over to Busterkins, who drops Path of Ancestry and says go to J-Man. He plays Savide Triome and passes back to Kyle. He plays an island and uses it to cast Careful Study. So this will allow him to draw 2 cards and discard 2. And after he pitches 2 cards to the bin, he'll cast an Urza's Bauble, which can allow him to look at a card from an opponent's hand as well as draw a card himself. He passes the turn over to me. I play an island as my land for turn and cast Lightning Greaves, super fast boots. I pass the turn over to Busterkins, who plays a tapped Frontier Bivouac. He gives J-Man the pass back, and he draws before playing Stomping Ground. He'll have it enter the battlefield untapped at the cost of 2 life. Then he'll cast Birds of Paradise, Bird Dork. On his end step, Kyle activates Urza's Bauble, looking at a random card from J-Man's hand, and then on his upkeep he'll draw a card, followed by drawing a card proper. He plays Bad River as his land for turn before passing back to me. I play a tapped Godless Shrine. I'm not in a hurry. Then I tap and cast Arcane Signet. I say go, and on Busterkins' turn he plays a Nomad Outpost, another tapped land, but he's getting all the colors he needs. He passes the turn back to J-Man playing a Command Beacon, and that can be used to get around some commander attacks in the long run. He plays Chromatic Lantern, Secret Lair drop. This can make all of his lands tap for any color, which is probably not bad in a Wooburg colored deck. On Kyle's turn, he draws, then activates Bad River. He'll go and find a Hallowed Fountain, entering the battlefield untapped, taking 2 points of damage. He then plays an island proper as his land, and then he casts his commander, Tameshi, Reality Architect. He passes the turn over to me. I play my commander, Alela, Artful Provocateur. And in response, J-Man has a dastardly plan. He uses Boseiju Who Endures with its channel ability to destroy my Lightning Greaves. The monster that he is. I get to go find a Sunken Hollow though. And on Busterkins' turn, he plays Crucible of the Spirit Dragon. As a follow-up, he casts Dromoka the Eternal. This will trigger his Path of Ancestry, allowing him to scry 1 card, and he decides to put that right onto the bottom of his library before passing the turn. J-Man plays an untapped Godless Shrine, taking 2 damage, and then he casts Nylea's Intervention, where X equals 4, so that allows J-Man to go find 4 lands of his choice and put them right into his hand. He passes the turn to Kyle while he finds his lands, and Kyle drops Otawara, Soaring City, and passes the turn over to me, suspiciously. On my turn, I play an Esper Sentinel. This will trigger my commander, giving me a 1/1 fairy token, while J-Man shows us the lands he found. I resolve my Esper Sentinel, and then I cast Loyal Drake. This will allow me to draw cards whenever I move into combat with my commander out, and guess what I do? So I move to combat at J-Man with Alela, getting a card draw, and pinging him a few points of commander damage, gaining a couple life in the process. Then I drop Arcane Sanctum before passing the turn over to Busterkins. He plays Wasatora, Nekoru Queen, pronounced flawlessly. He used Path of Ancestry to cast that, so he gets to scry 1, keeping it on top. He moves to combat at Kyle. Dromoka triggers, and he accidentally places the counters on itself. It should have gone on Wasatora, but that works itself out in a minute. Before damage, Kyle casts Banishing Knack, targeting Tameshi, triggering my Esper Sentinel. He then taps Tameshi to bounce Dromoka back to Busterkins' hand. He plays a Crumbling Necropolis as his land for turn before passing back to J-Man. He plays a fancy Windswept Heath as his land for turn before casting his commander, Kenrith, the Returned King. A nice 5/5 with all sorts of activated abilities. Kyle, however, has a response. He casts Enlightened Tutor, triggering my Esper Sentinel, getting me a card draw, and then he goes and finds Archaeomancer's Map, putting that on top of his library. And finally, he casts Arcane Denial, countering Kenrith while it's on the stack. Then J-Man's Sadness hits the stack, resolves, and he'll crack his Windswept Heath to go find a Rogren Triome before passing the turn to Kyle, and they'll both benefit from additional card draw thanks to Arcane Denial. Kyle then plays his Archaeomancer's map, again triggering my Esper Sentinel, but this time Kyle will pay 1, because he's a Rudy McBooty and hates it when I draw cards. Kyle grabbed his 2 planes and then played 1 for turn. Then he activates Tameshi. He bounces an island back to his hand, draws a card, gets an Urza's Bauble from the graveyard, and then he casts Mox Amber as well. Using Mox Amber, he casts Seal of Removal, a decent enchantment that'll bounce something back to its owner's hand. And following that, he'll crack his Urza's Bauble, and then he'll use a dice to determine which card he could peek at from my hand. He passes the turn, and then he gets to draw a card on my upkeep thanks to Urza's Bauble. On my turn, I cast Azorius Signet. This will trigger my commander, making me another 1/1 fairy. What? Then I cast Mystic Remora, again triggering my commander, and hopefully allowing me to draw some cards. Then I cast All That Glitters, targeting Alela. This again produces me 1/1 flying fairy token. No big deal. And with Alela enchanted, I move to combat, swinging at J-Man, and on my attack I get a draw because of Loyal Drake. J-Man takes his beats, I gain some life, I play Reliquary Tower in my second main phase, triggering Kyle's Archaeomancer's map, getting him a land. Then I cast Ethereum Sculptor, again triggering my commander, getting another fairy token. I gain my life because I almost forgot. On Busterkin's turn, he recasts Dromoka the Eternal, and gets a Scry thanks to Path of Ancestry.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
it's in my way. I'm left-handed and I'm very clumsy. Kyle.
He attacks, triggering Dromoka.
And then I'm going to sack Seal of Removal and bounce that creature back to your hand.
J-Man, this is coming at you instead.
Wasator is bounced.
I mean, to be fair, the counters being on there wouldn't have actually impacted anything, just that.
Yeah, it worked out. He plays a forest.
Sick!
And he passed back to J-Man, who draws and plays a Misty Rain Forest, secret layer drop, before casting Moraphan, the Boundless, naming Angel. So this will allow him to reduce the cost of his angels by Wooburg. So guess what? He gets a free Maelstrom Archangel. J-Man loves angels. On his end step, Kyle casts Into the Royal, targeting my Mystic Remora. This will draw me 2 cards, thanks to Esper Sentinel and Remora. Also draw him a card thanks to Tameshi once it's bounced back to my hand. On his turn proper, he draws and plays a Fell War Stone, triggering my Esper Sentinel, which he pays for. Then he activates Tameshi, bouncing a land back to his hand, so he'll get to draw a card and get Seal of Removal from the graveyard to the battlefield. He then plays an island, and then activates Tameshi again, where X equals 0, so he'll bounce back Otawara to his hand, and then get an Urza's Bauble out of the battlefield once again. He goes ahead and cracks that bad boy, randomly determining which card he could see from my hand once again.
It is if you want.
It's the same card I saw
Same
last
card.
time.
Oh, is it?
No,
Nice.
That's super funny.
The gods of chaos have spoken, bro. I clean up my board, draw, and play an island.
Yeah!
I recast Mystic Remora, triggering my commander, getting me a 1/1 flyer in the air. And I like flying things so much, I cast an Ornithopter of Paradise, again, triggering my commander, getting me a 1/1.
Oh, cost 1 less to cast. Sorry.
That's your one takesy backsy.
Yeah, right.
Is it?
I have 1 blue float.
Oh man, I'm a hoot.
I'm a pretty funny guy.
I cast Etchings of the Chosen, naming Fairy, and again triggering my commander, getting me another 1/1. That's kind of what I got going on here. Then I cast a Sorcery Speed Mortify, targeting J-Man's Angel, because it's in my way. I move into combat and swing a whole bunch of stuff at him. He chump blocks my commander with his Birds of Paradise, and he still takes enough damage to drop down to 6. Then Alela's like, yo, I got lifelink, and I pass.
I could kill J-Man, but you've been picking on him.
Tech Brand. He has 3 fires.
He
he's
he did something to me once. I forget what it was, but he killed my boots.
Oh, that deserves death. I'm sorry, Jeremiah.
And with that, Busterkins decides to attack J-Man because he can. And this knocks J-Man out of the game. As a follow-up, he plays Steel Hellkite on his second main phase before passing the turn to Kyle. He plays Trinket Mage. This will go and have him find a mana value 1 or less artifact. In this case, it's Codex Shredder. This is one of the pieces for his mill plan. So he's getting there. Then he activates Tameshi, bouncing a land back to his hand, getting that Urza's Bauble back out into the battlefield after drawing a card. Then he plays Inventor's Fair as his land for turn. followed by that Codex Shredder that he just fetched up. This triggers my drawing effects. He pays for Esper Sentinel, but not Remora, so I draw a card as well. He again sacks Bauble and looks at my hand. Then I cast Enlightened Tutor. So I go and find a Cathar's Crusade and put it on top of my library. Why did I do that with the Codex Shredder out? I don't know. I'm not that good at Magic. I'm like mostly casual. On my upkeep, I pay for Remora, and thankfully, Kyle lets me draw that card. I play Exotic Orchard, and then I cast Cathar's Crusade. This was Kyle's plan all along. He casts Dovin's Veto and makes me waste a whole bunch of mana. But I still do get a 1/1 thanks to my commander, seeing as I cast an enchantment. I play Talisman of Dominance, again triggering Alela, getting me a 1/1. And then as punishment for countering my spell, I attack Kyle with everything, drawing a card thanks to Loyal Drake. He bounces my commander back to my hand and I lose all that glitters. And I mean, like, that makes me real sad. He goes to 20 and I pass the turn to Busterkins the Hoot. He plays Earthquake, where X equals 5. So each creature without flying and each player will take 5 points of damage. Now, I'm not too mad about this, seeing as most of my things fly. However, Kyle's Tameshi going back to the command zone certainly slows his mill plan down. I draw a couple for my draw effects, and Busterkins moves into combat attacking Kyle. Kyle drops to a very comfortable 1. Busterkins activates Hellkite for 0, which you can do. In response, Kyle mills me 1 with Codex Shredder before Mox Amber dies. He passes, and on Kyle's upkeep, he gains 1 life thanks to Inventor's Fair before recasting his commander, Tameshi, Reality Architect. Then he plays Misty Rainforest. He sacks it, and then he goes and finds a Mystic Sanctuary. And with its ETB ability, he gets to put Enlightened Tutor on the top of his library. Then he'll activate Tameshi, bouncing a Plains back to his hand. He'll draw a card, which is of course that Enlightened Tutor, drop a Mox Amber, followed by his own Ethereum Sculptor. With all those things out, we are danger close to being milled out by Kyle. Thankfully, he has to pass the turn, discarding 1. On his end step, I cast Anguished Unmaking. I target Busterkin's Steel Hellkite. I mean, if that thing hits me, I lose like my entire army, am I right? Plus, with Kyle tapped out, I feel pretty safe that I could attack into him, and Busterkins would be my only real threat. I drop an island, Kyle gets a Plains. I recast my commander, Alela, Artful Provocateur. Then I cast Foundry Inspector, getting me another 1/1. I basically dump my hand as a show of force. I cast Hannah's Ship Navigator as well. Before moving into combat, I draw a card thanks to Loyal Drake, and attack in such a way that I could kill Kyle and deal as much damage as I can to Busterkins. Before damage is resolved, Kyle sends a message by activating Codex Shredder, milling me 1 before he gets knocked out of the game. Busterkins is at 8, and in my second main phase, I cast Rhystic Study with the express purpose of just making another 1/1. Busterkins plays Sunscorch Regent, scrying 1, and paying for my Rhystic Study before passing the turn back over to me. On my upkeep, I clean up my board a little bit, draw, and just move right into combat with my entire airborne army, which is enough damage to knock Busterkins out of the game, making me the winner. Yay! And here's Meatball. He's so chunky. And there you have it, that's the game. And I mean, let's face it, I was a force to be reckoned with, none who oppose me will survive. Just kidding, of course, I'm really not competitive ever since the incident. Thanks again for all those that support us on Patreon. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, thank you for watching.